T-Bad and Brandon.
I'm going to start recording because the chat before we officially start is actually always the best chat.
I was going to say, before you'd start anyway, two things. One, Brando, can you lock the gym door when you leave? I didn't have my key.
Yes. Yeah, I've got your key.
That'd be awesome.
It's so just to give some context for Jordo, so we're at a clinic that Paul Peglar owns, yet he's at his house.
Yeah.
I figure.
Yeah. Proper business owner, man. Have someone else pay the bills for you. Fucking up.
That's a good point, actually. If only they would pay the bills, then we'd be laughing.
I'll slip you a 20 under the door.
Oh, you're a good man. You're a good man.
I knew Gawain would be the last one to come in on this.
Yeah, you were.
I'm going to call it fashionably late.
Yeah, you were giving me shit when you turned up today. So Jordan, an hour ago, probably a little under an hour ago, I was actually at the clinic because we had to hang a whole load of mirrors. And Brando arrives and he's like, you've got the podcast today. I was like, yeah. At 4. And I was like, I've got loads of time. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but I was still more shocked that you had a drill in your hand.
Harsh, but fair.
Very fair.
Very fair. But here I am. Easy. No worries.
I've also
No whiskey today, Paul?
I actually have a nice wine that I'm about to start soon. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Fuck. If it's anything like last time, Gawain will be mixing whiskey and protein shake.
Oh. Yeah, Gawain.
Interesting.
It was a good look.
Actually, Jordo, funny story. So I went and got an MRI on Thursday for my left hip, and the lady put the headphones on me. She's like, we've got Spotify. You can listen to whatever you want. So I was like, oh, cool. RXD radio, please. Like that.
Oh, Christ.
No, this is the funny part. Like, she didn't type in RXD. She's only searched RX. I listened to a podcast about prescription medication for about 20 minutes.
You know what? And you're way better off as a consequence than listening to any of the nonsense I put on the internet. So you're welcome. You're welcome on, putting the name after something that might lead you down a path of finding something smarter than the crap we put on the internet.
Well, I do really like to listen to Killian Hamilton because I feel like he's a very deep dude, and that's why.
Yeah, he's an interesting character, man. That's that's the biggest disappointment with being here. Like, I have no qualms to file with Australia other than the fact that I can't be around some of my staff, especially him. Have all this time to do all this shit, and I'm 8,000 miles or however many thousand miles I am away from everyone I work. I had to wake up at 4 a.m. Oh fuck, he's here.
Yeah.
Assuming that Jordan was talking shit about me once again.
There he is. Come on, enough of the good things to say. The thing is, Gawain doesn't actually have a microphone on. We could just hear him talking through his fucking window.
Oh, look at that head. How are you, brother?
Good evening. How are we all, except for Jordan? What's up, Paul?
Mate, I am great. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I still can't get used to you with the short hair.
I know. I don't know. I go through waves. I miss my hair sometimes. I really do.
Definitely shorten your showering time.
Oh, mate. Well, potentially.
If you're in a shower.
Assuming there's a shower.
Showering.
Yeah, that's it.
Well,
it's only middle of the month, guys, so you've got another 14 days before you're due.
What's this middle of the month?
yeah, what's that got to do?
We only share at the end of the month, right?
It's kind of it's halfway through the year, mate. This is month business. Do you shower monthly? I knew there was a reason why you smelled so good.
If you ever smelt his knee sleeves wrapping him, you would assume he had a fucking sleeveless month.
You can't wash your knee sleeves.
You can.
Power. No, you can't. Well, you can, but you lose the power. You need the power.
How large are you right now, Johnny? What's your body weight right now?
119 a bit. Thank you
Good
for asking.
Lord.
It's
You
beautiful.
look large. How much food are you eating right now?
All of it. is the answer.
That's the answer. The scientific answer.
Yeah. I'm going for a bigger deadlift next week, and I want to weigh 120.
What are you going to pull?
I would like the mighty 3, I think.
Haven't we pulled 3 already?
Oh, just
the one he missed.
I have. I've missed it 5 of the fucking times.
What's with people training with Brando and missing lifts over and over and over and over?
Look, I'll be very honest. I probably only had the right to be having one of those 5 attempts at it.
When I was there, you were pretty close, man.
That was close. But this time it's going to go. I actually peaked for it properly and did all the things you're supposed to. So it should fall. Or thereabouts anyway.
How far out are you from what are you preparing for? You just going through your training cycle?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, as you know, I like to lift heavy. So I sort of parked the other 2 lifts to work on them like an adult, but I needed something for me. So I decided to pull heavy deadlifts through this.
We don't get adult Johnny much.
I love the way you've implied that he actually cycles through his training.
Yeah.
To say at some point he actually deloads and decreases. That's very good of you, Gray. We don't know it's a lie, but it's still very good of you to.
I just think the best for Johnny.
That's it.
The fact that I've known him so long, I just try to think the best for Johnny.
Thank you, bro.
So I actually feel like this is the most multicultural, diverse podcast we've ever had.
Mate, it's fucking 5 minutes into this and you're already hitting me with the racism.
Yeah. Well, it's not just directed at you.
I can leave, man.
Such a racist.
We've got an Irishman, a Canadian, a Filipino, a fake Italian, who is myself,
a bogan,
and a bogan Australian. I think we're killing it.
That's a bad joke. I don't want to hear the punchline too.
Cultural diversity there.
I feel like we're doing great things for the podcast. We're
connecting the world.
Hello, Geordie. How are you, Geordie?
Don't call me that.
I had this idea. We actually wanted this round table down in Pro Raw. And then I was like, do I really want to put Gawain next to Jordan Shallow in a room? Because I know Gawain is just going to be a bastard.
Yeah.
He's just going to end up on my lap. I know how that story is.
And I'm going to end up on his lap and I'm going to be rich.
But
were you going to be down for Pro Raw, Jordan?
Yeah, I flew into Melbourne because I was meant to do the strength summit.
Oh, yeah, that thing.
And then as I was flying I was in British Columbia, so Western Canada prior to that, and I was in the air when Tony had to make the decision to pull it because it was in a separate venue. So the whole weekend had been canceled, but we were going to go up on the Thursday. Yeah. And then I was flying there because I'd meant to go Melbourne, Perth, Townsville, Sydney, and then carry on 4 weekends in succession. And then we got to Melbourne and it was like they closed the gate right while we were in the air. So we had to self-quarantine in Melbourne for 2 weeks. And then we drove to Bondi. My partner and I, we just got here and we've been hanging out ever since.
Fuck.
So you stuck here, Jordan. You can't go back.
It's a bit of a gray area. So I can extend my visa. June 18th will be 3 months in the country. So if I extend my visa, I'll likely be able to stay. So my girlfriend's Australian. She can't leave, which is the disconcerting part. So I can go back to Canada. They'll let me in, no dramas. But the Australian government actually won't let her get on a plane, which is like a little North Korea-esque for my liking. But I kind of understand where they're coming from. So that's I'm going to stay here as long as I can, hopefully renew the visa and just hang out until they come grab me and kick me out.
You're practically Australian, so.
You're Australian now, bro.
Oh, but it works, mate.
I've been here long enough. I use the C word way more than any self-respecting Canadian ever would. And, I still, that Vegemite's still shit. I still think you guys are trolling the world with that.
You just haven't had it enough times, bro. Once you have it enough times, it'll work you down.
Yeah, you know what? You know who else says that? Alcoholics. So I don't think that would
And they're right.
Case in point. Good idea, dude.
I was literally like before this podcast, my partner was like, babe, you're going to have to actually give them a topic to talk about. Otherwise, it's just going to be shit chat for 3 hours.
We'll get to it eventually.
That's exactly what she said. And I was like, yeah, but that's where the money is.
Yeah, we'll get to it eventually. We're not quite sure what it is yet.
There's
but we'll
money
get
in
to
podcasts?
Well, if there is, we're not making it. Except Paul, who we're paying to be here. So
about that, when's that happening, actually? It's a good point.
yeah, we'll talk about that. It's checked. It's
Hang
coming.
on, how come you're in Paul's facility again and Paul's at home?
Well,
Because it's comfortable at home.
Okay.
I have wine at home. I had whiskey last time. I have wine this time.
Okay.
so cultured. But we actually do have a topic, and I think it'll be a really good conversation to have with three very intelligent people. And for those who are actually listening to the podcast, I probably should introduce you all. Paul Peglar.
I should probably leave.
Well, I don't know why we invite you back, Mr. Gawain
I don't know
Johnstone.
either.
And then, of course, the muscle doc, Jordan Shallow. So we all thank you very much for being here.
Yep.
I was pressured.
You
I never left after the last time.
Still in the same seat.
Fucking hell. But I think it'd be a good conversation to talk about, and one that's very prevalent, obviously, in our sport, and obviously in the world that you guys, obviously Paul being a clinician for 17 years, Jordo being one of the world's best educators going around at the moment, and Gawain being a high-level athlete. This idea of injury prevention. Shut up, Gawain. Fuck.
You can do it. Just stay strong, Brando. Stay strong. Get it out. Get the words out. You can do it.
This idea of injury prevention, does it exist, or do we need to have a shift of, because injuries are going to happen in this sport. You know, we're putting excessive loads on our back. Is it a language change we need to move away from injury, injury prevention to injury risk management or something?
Fuck me. I hope you told Nicole you're not coming back till like Tuesday. Do you have any idea how big that topic is? Holy shit.
So this is the thing, because it's one thing that's annoying the shit out of me, the amount of, that gyms are starting to open up now, that a lot of their claim to fame is like, we use evidence-based approach to avoid injury. And it's like,
it's not possible.
No, you can't prevent an injury.
No. Look, the reality is the higher, my personal opinion on it, that the higher the level of the athlete, the closer they're going to get to injuries nonstop. Like, fuck it. About 98% of athletes that retire out of a sport retire because of the sport, not because of a particular injury. So you've got about 2%, possibly even less than 2% of athletes are forced to retire because of some form of unknown, unpredictable acute injury. I was playing rugby, some fella blindsided me, broke my femur. The other 98, 99% of athletes retire because as they continue to play their sport, the sport wears out their body. It's an inevitability. The loads, you can't be the best at what you do and be a jack of all trades and have an amazing body across the board. So you can't be an amazing strength athlete and have muscular endurance, high level recoveries. You can't have a amazing aerobic capacity, brilliant blood glucose efficiency, fantastic lactate thresholds. You have to be a expert in one particular area. So the moment you focus on one area, the moment you elevate one physiological system higher than the others, you're going to overload it and you're going to overtrain it, and the others are going to fall away and you're going to create imbalance. But that's the nature of being an elite athlete, is being the best at what system is going to give me the best outcome in my sport. So you do that for long enough, you work to that long enough, eventually the sport is going to wear you down. And that's not even talking about the idea behind genetic potential within any particular athlete. To put an elite, top level, professional elite level athlete on the field, for them to be at peak, like when we talk about you guys, for you to get onto the platform, genetic potential, it's not a linear thing where we just keep getting better and better and better and better. You eventually hit a point where there's a downturn. The idea around getting to the absolute best we can be is you need to be on that knife edge. If you're too far backwards, you're not good enough. You're not strong enough. You're underdone. Yeah. If you go 1 week too far, and I'm sure all of you guys will have seen it with your athletes, you go 1 week too far in your prep, and you go over the hump and then you get injured. The idea behind genetic potential is to be at the crest, so, and that's just two of potentially numerous reasons why. Injury prevention, you can't prevent injuries. You can, and there's so many options out there, which hopefully we'll delve into as we go. You can minimize risk, and you can minimize the effect, and you can maximize the longevity of career, but eventually the sport gets you.
Yeah, to weigh in, I totally agree. But my 2 cents is, in strength sports, it's probably the easiest to control the risk and minimize the risk. And that, albeit, is difficult. And in strength sports, it comes down to technique and fatigue management. Right? Like, at no point when I squat is some Polynesian kid coming over center and trying to take off my head. Right? There's a predictability to the wear and tear in strength sports, because you know exactly the burning building you're walking into, right? You can be a lot more proactive and a lot less reactive. I think from a therapy standpoint, the problem that you see from the evidence-based crowd is they're not evidence-based, there's research-based. And research is so finely tuned in minimizing the variables that it actually decreases the value proposition of the very thing you're researching. So to have any experience in flying close to the sun, I think the one thing that therapists get away, like, everyone wants to be a sports therapist. It's like, yeah, what's your sport? Fucking beer pong? Like, get out of here with this nonsense. Put down your TheraBand, because you need to understand, how to kick off, like, what are the proper mechanics to kick a football if you're a place kicker in the NFL. Like, squat bench, sure, that's easy, but is he slicing down across that ball? Is he jackknifing that stance like adductor? Like, there's so much to the mechanic. And when we start to look at broader spectrum, like conventional therapists that go through I don't want to say rudimentary, like I went through it, like a curriculum, and they graduate and they're no different than anyone else, but they got a bicep vein and a 12-inch arm. And then all of a sudden they're a sports, they put on their polo, put on the little visor, they tuck it in to their New Balance khakis, and they got the Coach Hines, and they got the grass stained shoes on. It's like, all right, man, like you're looking at research, you're not looking at the athlete, and this idea of like posture and symmetry and all this crap. It's like, you have to, like you said roughly, and I'm paraphrasing, like, you have to become the system of your sport. And in a lot of ways too, you have to become the shape of your sport. Yeah. Like, I work with a welterweight boxer, and he walks into Whole Foods with his left shoulder. It's like, yo, Vargas, like, no one's going to knock you out in Whole Foods. You're the scariest looking tatted up Colombian dude I've ever seen in my entire life. But this is the shape of his sport. If he walks in with perfect posture, whatever this red herring is, he's lights out. He's got a glass chin, right? So it's like, it's finding that line of balance and performance, because good performance never exists in symmetry. Right? Ever. Like the pitcher in Major League Baseball, he needs enough external rotation to be painting that third fucking baseline as he winds up. But he needs just enough internal rotation to make sure he doesn't fly it off the handle right into Tommy John surgery. Right? So it's, how do you create that balance? I'm not going to do a wall angel test with a pitcher. You out of your fucking mind? Like, Posey comes down from the Bay from San Francisco, and I got to look at his elbow. It's like, all right, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check his opposite side hip flexion. Because if I know if he doesn't get that hip flexion, he's going to over-rotate the trunk and apply too much force. So for me, from like a kind of a therapeutic standpoint, when I see a lot of people looking at injuries, it's, we need to understand what an injury is, right? An injury is applied force greater than tissue tolerance. And I think 99% of the strength sports world, of the general therapy world, looks at only one side of the equation. They look at tissue tolerance. Oh, we're gonna do Tyler Twist to strengthen the forearm flexors. Yeah, and he's gonna run 104 miles an hour through with a fastball. And you're Tyler Twist, you could shove that thing up your fucking ass, because that's gonna be how good it is for that guy's forearm flexor common tendon. It's why aren't we looking at the other side of the equation? Why aren't we looking at how it is and why it is we are applying so much force to those tissues? Then we can start to ask better questions. Then we can start to train a little bit smarter to fly people closer and closer to the sun. Strength coaches, and coming more from that perspective, it's, especially when you have like good athletes. John Elway's strength coach said it the best. He goes, look, my job's to make sure John doesn't trip over weights in the weight room. Like, did you guys see the LeBron squat? Yeah. That thing that went around? Yeah. You know who's been a career starter and has missed less games. He's the Cal fucking Ripken Jr. of Major League Basketball. I don't give a shit if he's doing hingy squat things. Doesn't matter. The guy's missed less games due to injury than any career starter ever. Where's Derrick Rose? Derrick Rose is sitting there picking the scabs off his 17th knee surgery, right? And it's like, I think so many people get up this narrative that they can prevent injury, and they look at it from the wrong side of the equation. They look at it from tissue tolerance rather than applied force. And if we look at applied force, we immediately have to look at fatigue management and technique.
Man, so much of that, like, podcast done. Everything has been explained in one statement. Like, so much stuff in there is just so spot on. Like, to pick through numbers of it. Exactly. The research. This is my daughter, by the way.
Hello.
Hi. They can't quite hear you.
Imagine being a young girl and seeing this Mount Rushmore of bearded fat heads.
I know. Oh, I tell you. But, you know, so many things to pick through in one statement that are just so spot on that if people just listen to it, you know, the first is the theory versus practice. You know, 100% right. The problem with research is, right, the purpose behind research is to prove a hypothesis. I'm going to say that fucking hamstring pliability increases force production 30% in fucking sprinters, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove every potential variable possible that is going to fuck with my hypothesis to make sure that I either prove it or disprove it. So I'm going to remove everything from ambient temperature to training loads of other muscles, to movement mechanics, to make sure that I prove it. So what I'll do is I'll come around and I'll publish my research going, this is this. It has no relevance in the real world. You're going to have people walking through the door, exactly as you said, that they need to be unbalanced. That's the nature of their sport. If you try to correct, it's essentially like trying to get a right-handed tennis player and go, look, you use your right hand all the time. So what we need you to do for 3 days a week is use your left hand, because you're going to create imbalance. And then you'll hurt yourself because imbalance is bad. And he'll turn around and go, no, because I use my right hand and that's what pays my bills. Do you know what I mean? So research, this theory versus practice, we see it with prac students coming to the clinic all the time. They come in with all the theory in the world going, oh, but I'm meant to do these Apley tests and this O'Brien test and all these tests, and they tell me what's going on. They don't tell you anything. They're a good pointer to go, oh, that was positive. That could possibly lead to this, but it's a symptom. It's not a cause. You need to delve further and you need to look into it. And then the other problem as well, exactly right. Like, it's not fucking, I'm going to take a couple of you guys. I'm going to take Polly, because we're going to mention Polly in every podcast. Right? So Polly's come in with his shoulders. Now his shoulders are a bloody disaster, right? And he bench presses a fuck ton of weight. So his pec is going to be dominant and so on and so on. By conventional methods, we need to develop external rotation, build his rotator cuff, it's scar to shit, and here's all of this TheraBand work, as is the protocols around it. It's not a fucking TheraBand on the planet big enough to give him any form of stimulus to develop any form of posterior complex that's going to match where his pecs are at. So that whole statement by Jordan, you just sit there going, podcast done. It's like every element of what's wrong is covered.
Well then, that I expected that to go a bit longer, didn't I? Thanks, Jordan.
Well, hold on. Gawain hasn't said literally anything yet, so I wouldn't go anywhere just yet.
No. The boys are right, and the boys have been doing this a very, very long time. I think the compounding effect of that is that we have an industry now where the barriers to entry to be a coach, and obviously I'm just referencing powerlifting and I guess strength and conditioning, is that, a lot of people who are just PTs or, done some online unrelated stuff, calling themselves strength coaches and teaching people how to lift weights when they have no fucking business or no right to be able to do that. Obviously complemented with the complexity of what these boys are talking about as well. It's setting us up for failure. And luckily we've got guys like Paul and got guys like Jordan that are obviously doing extra teaching, educational stuff to be able to put us in a better position in the long term. So.
Yeah. But it's,
Well, I think if we look at the 3 pillars of evidence, like I think it's pretty well represented here, right? Like it's not just research. Like I'm sure Paul and I have gone through more research than we care to admit, but it's also like your personal experience as a coach, but more importantly, client or patient values. Like I think that's like Gawain has experienced things that we'll never experience. Like I have some buddies who've gone up to the Blue Mountains and done the whole DMT thing. They try and tell me about it. It's like, I haven't had a drink in 12 years. I don't know what it's like to be off my head on some chemical that releases in your brain right before you die. So they're trying to tell me about like, you're in your body, and they're talking to other smackheads and they're like, oh yeah. And then like I saw a light. I was like, I have no fucking idea what you guys talk about. But it's like, Gawain can't describe to me in any sort of accuracy what it's like to stand up with 1,000 pounds, right? He can maybe have a conversation with like a handful of guys, and he probably knows them by name. Right. Yet there's a lot of coaches out there looking at research and their experience and not paying enough attention to people like that. It's not by accident. You don't end up at 1,000 pounds on accident. Right. The head table at poker games are not those different people. You know, the people squatting the like, look, Al Pacino could come up to me before my 3rd squat at Pro Raw and give me the best any given Sunday speech. And I'm not going to rip the ammonia cast. Like, Grass, let's go with G. Let's do it. I'd fold like a fucking lawn chair. So like, you know, the research wielding crowd is like, look.
That is like me though, Jordan. Fucking put whatever on it.
But it is. It's the experience. Like it's the mentality behind it. You know, you need, you know, just another way to prevent injuries is exactly as Jordan's saying. You listen to the people involved in it. How many coaches and how many guys are coming out of university? I got, I've done 4 years. I've read all this research. I can now tell you how to do. You can't. You have no experience in that field. You don't know. And the mental is the X factor. You don't know what it takes to get to that level. Like, you know, and we've talked about it on previous podcasts. You don't know what 10 out of 10 is until you've hit 11.
Yeah, I actually stole that quote from Jordo. So
yeah. I love that.
Credit.
I've used that in the clinic a few times, buddy. Love that.
Hey, use it well. It's like, you know, you might as well just be the same kind of snake rat and go talk about women's health. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. I've read some stuff about some things. Whatever my missus says, that is the gospel. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, that's ice cream. You got to eat ice cream because of science. I'm like, who the fuck? But you see guys do it. Right? The way I look at research now is the way I look at Shred's marketing 10 years ago. It's like, oh my God, they were photoshopping the pictures. Did you know that girl had fake tits? He's taking steroids. It's like, yeah. But now it's like you have this conglomerate of fucking nerds with their clipboards and pocket protectors. It's the same shit. Massage research, Photoshop pictures. Everyone's lying through their teeth to try and sell their own bullshit.
Yeah. But it is, and the other thing as well that you know, the other topic you get onto as well is this idea, and Jordan, you kind of alluded to it when you're talking about it, this blurring of the lines of roles, not responsibilities, but roles in what you do. I am not, and I've seen a few of Johnny and Brando's clients, I am not in a position to teach somebody how to powerlifter. Fuck, man, I'm 84 kilos, and as I've said before, if I get under a bar heavier than 70 kilos, my knees turn to chalk. Like, I can't make you a powerlifter. I can't teach you to power. There is, you know, my job is to make sure that your body works so that when fucking Johnny makes you squat, you are not going to crumble. And the problem that we're getting now is we've hit another kind of, I don't know what we call it, a fad maybe, everyone's looking for their niche, where they're going, right, we're going to bring you into the gym and I'm going to hook you up to these bands and you're going to have fucking 2.5 kilos heavier in your right hand than your left hand because you're right-handed, and I'm going to get you to move your left leg 12 degrees externally rotated because that's what mimics what you do in your sport. There's only one way to get better at your sport, and that's fucking do your sport. All that's happening is when we have these guys trying to I guess, break lane, go out of their lane and going, I'm going to do this because it's going to set me apart and it looks fancy and I can put it on Instagram and look how fucking cutting edge and new I am in what I do, you know, and all that's doing is it's devaluing the athlete in front of you, because what you're doing is you're doing a inappropriate programming or rehab or whatever it is to make yourself look better, to stroke your own ego by look at how intelligent and smart I am with these new fangled things, you know. And that's another problem. It's this Instagram, social media, egotistical, look at how amazingly brilliant I am. If I'm going to rehab you and make you better, not because I'm actually care that you get better at your sport, because if I make you better, then I can shout to the fucking rooftops at how amazingly great I am. And now everyone is jostling to try to come up with this new thing. And this new, you know, and it's all research, and it's this research is this, and you know, and we're losing the fundamentals of what our roles are, and you know, we see it. I'm not sure if you see it so much over in Canada. I see it so much in Australia. These great divides, these great separations between this is an ex-phys and this is a physio and this is a strength coach, and fucking never will we talk to each other because we're in competition and I need to get more followers and more people fucking following me. And it's the people who miss out, the people who are fucking fucked by this are the athletes and those that are training, because they put their faith in us to get them right, and there's such a high mentality now around doing it only to prove myself being fantastic.
I think another, like touching on what you said there, Paul, like from a strength coach perspective, you're talking about, you know, physios don't talk to strength coaches and strength coaches don't talk back. And it goes back to what Jordo said before. Like a lot of people are looking at that tissue tolerance thing and then missing the boat completely, going, well, they're loading this, which creates this issue, which creates the problem at the tissue tolerance level. Yeah,
that's right.
And that creates that divide.
You know, whereas the conversation is more along the lines of, you're going to do this. How do I help you get there? How do I help you with this?
I won't work with an athlete unless I can overhaul everything. Like, that's like, I know some bodybuilders that like go into a prep and they have someone do their training and someone do their nutrition. It's like, how the hell, what are like, input versus output? How are those going to be two separate conversations? How can you know how to program for someone? Like, are you going to start loading heavy eccentrics in a caloric deficit and creating more muscle damage? Like, that doesn't sound like a good idea. But if you have the Capulets and the Montagues arguing over Instagram followers, it's like, there's no story there. Like, you're going to have a client that loses. And I was guilty of that when I first started. Like, oh, my elbow hurts. Can you do my rehab? And I was like, oh yeah. It's like, wait, if I'm not doing your training, I'm not doing your rehab. Like, you know, do this on your off days, and this is your issue, and this is what, and do this kind of breathing drill in this position. It's like, that's like running into a burning building with a squirt gun. It's like, yeah, don't worry, guys. So what? It's like, I saw when people message me now, it's like, look, this is it. This is what I'm willing to do because I'm putting my name on this. And if, you know, you working with like a mercenary of a coach that's just going to put you through the ringer, and it's a system that works for, like, you know, you alluded to genetic potential, right? And genetic potential is, all right, how much of that X-Man adamantium gene you got in those elbows, son? Like, that's literally, because you see some guys lift. Wayne, you can attest to this. You rock up to a meet and you see some guys, and I don't think they can get away with it, frankly, in the heavier weight classes. But some of the 220, 242 or 100, 110 guys, reckless. And it's like, what are you made? Like Larry Williams is a classic example. Larry Williams squat 900 pounds 2 weeks out from the nationals in Miami in a bodybuilding show, while Netflix special of, you know, Ronnie Coleman getting a fucking colostomy bag is running, and everyone's like, that 800 pound squat for a double, and it's like, we got a kid 900 in sleeves for a double. Like, you know, have you ever seen the movie Unbreakable? It's Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis, and Bruce Willis just can't die, and Samuel is like, that exists, right? Like, it's a spectrum. The way, like, we're genetically coded to lay down collagen in a certain manner. And that goes clinical and pathological into the realm of, like, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. But you have to imagine that spectrum might go somewhere to the adamantium route, where it's like, this fucking guy, he just won't. He's like a cockroach. Like, he just won't die, right? And so understanding that part comes so much from experience. Like, you know, understanding a mechanism of injury when taking like a history on someone is so integral. Because, like, yeah, I owed some bikies some money and they took a bat to my knees. It's a much different injury than, like, I was sparring at jiu-jitsu, I tripped on my bathrobe little thing, and then I fucking blew an ACL. It's like, okay, these are two different people here.
Yeah. Does the burden of ignorance then fall on the athlete though?
It's not their job to know.
No.
Isn't it?
That's
though?
right.
If we're talking
100%.
about elite athletes,
If you're talking about
Think
elite
of an elite
athletes,
athlete, though.
the elite athlete, honestly, it goes back to what I said earlier. If you're going to be the best at what you do, you need to remove as much of the periphery as possible to focus on being the best at what you do. The more elite you become, the less you need to be dealing with that stuff. You know, and this is where the mental and you know, where you'll jump into it with the kind of mindset and stuff around it comes into it. Like they need to be aware, but they need to be aware of their body as opposed to what the mechanism is around. Like you're never, and I don't know if you guys agree, but my personal opinion with dealing with elite athletes in the past, you're never going to get the best out of them unless they 100% have their trust and faith in you to make sure it's done. If you have the athlete second guessing you and going, oh, but I've read this article on the collagen regeneration rates post hypoxic training, which would indicate a better blah, 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 blah. You need your athlete going, I'm with Paul now. He's got this sorted. I can focus on what I'm doing and be the best of doing. The more elite, the more relevant that becomes. It's a different conversation when you're talking about Joe Blogg's 40-year-old accountant who's come in to see you with, you know, tennis elbow.
I guess I probably just have too much of a demand on, or if I'm using myself for an example, you know, there's so much of that that's prevalent within our sport where people are just literally getting bludgeoned themselves. And it's so glaringly obvious, especially when you go to meets and things like that, when we're obviously testing, you know, our fucking limits, right? Surely, powerlifting is not that hard. It's not like we're playing on an NFL team or I'm playing on a soccer team where there's just such an array and such a high level of movement that's required to be able to function at that elite level. Yes, like dudes, and to talk more what Jordy was saying, dudes are literally bludgeoning, girls especially are getting fucking bludgeoned.
Yes.
And at some point, like I understand what you're saying around the greater, the more elite the athlete is, the more they need obviously to think about in consideration of those things. But at some point, these guys and girls need to be fucking accountable. They need to be smarter around it.
This is the point. This is the question going back to what I was saying earlier. When you have coaches or therapists or whatever that are more interested in their own ability, you know, when it's my research and proving myself, you know, it's who's got the biggest dick on an academic scene. That's where you're finding this problem, because these guys are getting bludgeoned, not because it's their fault, not because they're not looking at it and educating themselves enough. No, education they need, we'll talk about that. But I truly believe a lot of it comes back to they're being taken advantage. And that's not their fault. You know, like you have a lot that the industry has changed a lot now, and it's become so egocentric and so fucking Instagram that these athletes are being taken advantage because they are focused on their sport and they are trusting the people working with them.
Yeah, I think they're not, I mean, no powerlifter is seen as an asset. Tom Brady is absolutely an asset now to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? So how is it that we get our information? How is it that we vet? Well, we vet in the social currency of likes and subscribers and followers. That's trust, just like currency is trust, just like the US dollar versus the Australian dollar versus the Canadian dollar versus the pound versus the euro. It is a trust in that economy. And with, you know, an ability to manipulate and engagement groups and all this nonsense you see on social media, you can get an inflation. You can get an inflation of trust. And someone that's going to actually, like, when they run, like a therapist might be seen as better because they have more followers. And in the open market, that is powerlifting. When you put it up, like this is ESPN 8, The Ocho, maybe. Thor deadlifting in his grandma's basement, and that made the news, where a fully sanctioned meet can't be seen anywhere on TV, right? But it's like when it's hundreds of millions of dollars, there's at least a vetting process. I'm not saying, look, I work with some guys in some pro leagues on a concierge level, and I need to sidestep their medical staff. But at least there's a vetting process because they're trying to protect an asset, right? So I think powerlifters, I'll agree to a certain level. Like if we're talking about athletes in a broad spectrum, I think you'd have to go into the sport. Like powerlifters, absolutely, because it's how I pick coffee shops in cities I don't know. I just search a hashtag on Instagram.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Right? So like that's to me like that's how people are finding it. Like,
Yes.
I'm not gonna name names. Fuck, I want to.
I know, bad. I was checking myself earlier, so I'm like, oh.
There's a cross validation. It's like I almost sticking with this currency model. It's like cryptocurrency works a lot like this. It's cross validated through a ton of networks simultaneously, and all of that has to check out. And that's why it's really hard to. Make fraudulent and counterfeit. When we start to not vet, like I'll create content with people and I'll think about it like, oh shit, I'm putting my name on that.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that out in the world, and that's now another network that's linked for this currency to, portray trust in the world. I won't release it. Right. And that's to what little, like, I'm not going to call people out yet. Just give me like 6 more months. I swear. Keep me inside for 6 more months and I'm going to be like Mussolini from the balcony. I'm just going to be like, I'm just going to fire off.
We're going to do that podcast.
Yeah. We'll get you back on it.
Get the exclusive. The boys get the exclusive. But I think that's what the problem is we trade in this social capital through Instagram likes and subscribers, and that's how we inherently derive trust from people that we work with, especially in powerlifting, where the social media sphere is the platform of the sport.
Which is a scary thing when you put it in context to the conversation around injury prevention, things like this. Like, all you have to do is the new academic, if you like, from a practical point of view, is the bikini model who has 250,000 likes on Instagram. Like, all you got to do is look at this current environment. How many people are logging on to legitimate clinicians for advice on exercise versus following fucking, Margie's 2-minute fucking home workouts that she does in her skimpy bikini? But they do it because she has 250,000 followers. So she has 250,000. She must know what she's talking about. So I'll just follow her straight away and I'll see what's going on. It's ridiculous. I'll give you an example of this that in my opinion is concerning. Yeah.
Yes.
I won't name a name, but
just a bunch of names.
But I will say that it was the girls involved, the girls in the clinic with me, with Sammy and Lisa. So they put up a post, highly informative post, practical based, around, it was around athletics, it was around Achilles tendinopathy stuff and so forth. And it was awesome. There was a video to it. It was really well put together. There wasn't big medical jargon. It was very easy to understand. It was a good prepping warm-up video for runners, so forth. They got maybe 25 likes on Instagram, maybe. The same time, and I know this because Lisa brought it to my attention the day after, the same time, this other girl who is now Lisa, bearing in mind, is a Commonwealth Games representative pole vaulter, as elite as it gets, giving advice on athletics. On the other hand, this girl who is an American, she's a college pole vaulter. She hasn't represented anybody, put up a similar type of idea, but the video was her running down the beach with a stick, in her bikini, demonstrating technique. It wasn't the greatest piece, but she had over 600,000 likes.
It was a good bikini.
Great bikini.
Yeah, you're the problem. You're part of the problem.
Yeah.
I love that's where your head went.
Yeah. But, that's what I turned around to him. I said, well, if you had done it in your bikinis, you'd be laughing. Obviously, that's where you went wrong. But the worrying thing isn't with the social media and the currencies you're talking about, Jordan, is there's so much out there now, and where we're deciding, validity as to who we look after and who we go to, I think is a bit skewed. It's there's so many different facets to this as to why. How do you prevent injury?
Yeah, I mean, to the social media point, it can almost have a similar conversation as to Gawain's stance on athletes being like holding themselves accountable to really going through the requisite vetting process to ending up on the doorstep of someone that'll actually help them, not be inherently self-serving, right? Like, and this is something that I struggle with, because I saw very early, like, the writing on the wall and the potential of growing a social media following, and by means of, and to hopefully capitalize on. Like, I'm not motherfucking Teresa here. Like, I'm looking at margins and I'm keeping an eye on the bank account. Like, but at the same time, it's like, there has to be like an ordinate ethical override to the decisions that I make. But so just as an athlete, I think is, look, this is the current state of the game, win the game. Right. And so, like, clinicians, I think to a certain degree have to take that on and start taking it more seriously. Like, we had a chat the other day about like this idea of like ethical content creation as a KPI towards, developing a business that's worth trusting, right? And starting to coincide a value to a price that might hopefully one day be able to drown this out. And it's something I wrestle with every day. Every time I sit in front of a fucking camera and, be like, hey, what's going on, guys? All right, today we're going to talk about this. I beat my head against the wall. Because you know how I used to find information? Forums. Remember forums? Like, I really hope the guy I have to meet in a park in a windowless van can help me bench 100 kilos. Like, I was willing to get stolen by strangers and end up on like Catch a Predator just to get information on how to fucking be stronger.
That's actually how I met Johnny.
And I got to show up at some fucking guy like G's looking there. Like, yeah, I got your answers for the 400 kilo squat in the back of the Corolla. So, but it's like, if this is a landscape, as unfortunate as it is to be someone who puts out information, and I know, and there's 4K information, and I say 4K information, like, the Commonwealth pole vaulter, the Achilles prep series for runners, that's 4K, that's high res, right? But there's a 4K resolution that's being overlaid to bullshit. Right. Yeah. And it's the 4K bullshit that people are getting drawn to, where it's the 720 gems that are just getting passed over.
That's the question, actually, a question on that. And because this is something I'd be interested in your opinion on it. Is then the problem with let's say the clinician-based profession, the physios, the therapists, things like that, where they're ignoring what people want. So the professions are sitting there still spewing academic-based, peer-reviewed journals in jargon that's ununderstandable and is purely just non-relative to the average athlete. So what's happening is you've got a situation here where you have people who are, let's say, less than reputable on social media, getting a lot of this attention purely because those that are in the know are delivering it terribly. So if we talk about, the girls, amazing article, but just not readable to the average athlete, which opens the door. We're almost too much fucking ego in ourselves. And look at me, how amazing I am with my pieces of A4 paper that says I'm super smart. You know what I mean? And what it's done is opened the door. I mean, what do you feel on that?
Yeah, I think, to a certain degree, you self-select for your consumer base. Right. So understand you're not your consumer. You're not your clients. Right. And that'll help you make better decisions. But like understanding your own, like there has to be 2 points to this. Like there has to be like, this is the line in the sand from an ethics standpoint that I will not cross. Some money is not worth making, and dividing an outward persona on social media to become a caricature of myself to serve a business is not going to serve me as a person long term. Right. So I'm willing to leave likes and subscribers and followers off the table. Now, when I first started, like, look, the people I want to impress likely don't have Instagram, right? Like, I'll walk into like a powerlifting and I'll start talking with Charlie Francis, and all the people look at me like, who the fuck is Charlie Francis? There's still people like this one I don't even understand. I can go into a powerlifting gym and talk about Charles Poliquin, and people are like, who's that? And it's like part of me dies inside because like this is my, like these are the meta gods of the people that when I first started, like I was so against social media because it's like, well, Dave Tate wasn't posting stuff on Instagram and Louis Simmons thinks it's stupid, and I don't know how many followers Charlie Francis has, or Andre Benoit, like go down the list of like the greatest of all time like strength coaches. But it's like, okay, here's the new age. And we see this in guys in North America who feel like they've missed out.
So now they're going on the reunion tour. They're getting the band back together, and they're trying to sell T-shirts and barbells because they were the pioneer, like founding fathers of this industry, and they're now looking to collect, right? So I think for me, it's you have to have both. Like, you're not going to help anyone if you don't have any sort of moral, ethical guidelines. Like, you know, that's going to be a tough thing to compete with the Baywatch stick figure pole vaulter, right? It's a long game if you got to go up against that. But, you know, if you play to your own ethical principle, you'll be able to self-select for a client base or a consumer base or a patient base that will be that all in, right? There's going to be no doubt. And then as you start to turn out results, that delayed gratification will see you better long-term, right? Like resisting to find that edge of like, okay, sensationalism versus ethics and be able to draw that. I think some people are too rigid in their approach, and, you know, for better or for worse, and your morals, and decide where you have to draw that line. But I think, look, in order to drown out the noise with better information, get a 4K camera, right? Understand, like, know what a lav mic is. Know how to use iMovie. Like, know, hello, hi. Like, know how to, like, know about interpreting insights. And it's like, it's hard because you now have to wear two hats, right? Like we talked about like the high level athlete, and I couldn't help think about it from a business perspective. Like Steve Jobs, when he was alive, wasn't the one putting the screen on the iPhone. He was sitting there yelling at people, telling them to figure it out, right? He doesn't know how to have to do that. He knows enough about that where he can quarterback that situation, right? So it's like, I think in a clinician, it's like, I know the difference between 4K and 1080. I know what ISO means. I know what f-stop means when we're looking at digital cameras. I know the difference between a mirrorless camera and a non-mirrorless. I know the difference between, you know, a Zoom H6 and an H4, because these are the tools. This is, if you're going out to battle, it's like you can't show up to a gunfight with a knife. And a lot of people, like, their own ethical principle is like getting in their own way. It's like, and it's always the people who've thought deep enough into the actual the topic at hand, their craft that they've studied, that like feel uncomfortable in stepping out, right? It's the guy who wears the Gymshark shirt that's doing push-ups with his dog in a backpack that's like has just no idea how stupid he is. But I'm almost jealous of this guy because he can get up on the mountaintop and scream from the highest peak and with complete confidence. And it's like, man, I wish, like I was in school for like a decade, and I have experience in this, and I still can't talk as blindly confident about shit as this fucking guy with a spray tan. Right. And that's it's the landscape, and it's shit. It sucks. It should be a meritocracy, but it's not. Like our value is proven in the public court of opinion. Right. And who's telling a better story?
Yeah. So that's it. Like, does it shift then? Is reasoning behind it? Is it how we educate? Is it the educational and the higher educational systems that need to adjust depending on what's the public need?
I think it comes to a point though as well where there's got to be buy-in for the athlete. Like, I'm going to listen to Jordo talk about mobility, stability, and strength because he's achieved what I want in the sport. He's a jacked human. It's what I fucking, like, anyone coming into power, if we're talking specifically strength sports, like, there's got to be a buy-in for me to want to listen to you. Paul, like, I bought into you because for a different reason of your education. I think there's that point.
Good-looking man, really.
That and like your shit chat. So it was brilliant.
Oh, I talk shit great.
Oh, you do. It's a gift. Probably more than Gawain.
Oh.
Yeah, probably. He's an Irishman. It makes sense.
But I think there's that point of like, going back to the example of the pole vaulter and all that is, my question to you, Paul, I guess, in that scenario, would Sammy and Lisa's, like, I know them personally, so I can comment they're smart, but if more people knew they were Olympic level athletes, would there be more buy-in?
I would say 100% yes.
So is that the route we need to go from of here's the experience, like, look at me, this is what I've done, to then this is how I can help you?
Exactly right.
Just like Jordan was saying just before, like the better people who are high achievers within their sports and better educators, better educators, the better they equip themselves to be able to do the stupid fucking the finicky things that these other people are doing, the better off. And it's only, I'm sure, and I want to believe that it's only a matter of time before this sort of diminishing returns hits, and these other fucking idiots who do not deserve to be able to have the voice that they have will just fall off to an extent, because there'll always be a market for people for snake oil salesmen and stuff like that. But just like Geordie has done, and you look at his social media in the past, probably. When was the last time I saw you, Geordie? 2 years? Year and a half?
Yeah, maybe Pro Raw Arnold's. I think. Yeah, we went up and trained up with Joshy there.
Yeah,
That
like
would've been
his
January last year, man.
Ryan. You're with Ryan Crowley.
No, yeah. That would have been January. I was touring with Ben.
Right. So his social media in that time has just like skyrocketed. Right. So he's done the things that he needed to do, which fucking I'm sure frustrates him, which he talks about, that he didn't want to have to do, but that he now does in order to get himself create a bigger voice for himself. Mm-hmm. And it's just like talking about the pole vaulters. If they want to subject themselves to these sort of things and take the viewpoint where they're actually investing in themselves, then it's only a matter of time before the finicky people whom I won't name will actually just sort of subside.
Yeah, because that's exactly right, and that's how I've always felt, and it's it's perfect to hear it come back.
I don't care anymore. Like I just don't care. Just like whatever you want to do this.
But this is it. The experience is lost. Like we're losing the people with the experience because they don't have the piece of paper. And I think and my personal opinion is, God forbid for me saying it, but we hold too much value in the person with the piece of paper and not the person with the experience. And what's happened is now we get so many coaches, clinicians, therapists ignoring their sports, ignoring getting experience in their world to spend more time in the lab and to spend more time on the computer researching things. And I think it's having a negative impact, because what you're getting people out here who goes, I can give you the metrics to fucking the rest to work ratios to develop optimal strength recovery rates, but I've never lifted or squatted a day in my life.
Geordie, how long until you actually, how many hours or years did you put into your craft before you actually got like a big time professional job for a sports team or sports related team?
And how long? The thing is, I look at it two ways, right? Because I always maintain I'm an athlete first. So my first job as a chiropractor was at Apple's world headquarters in Cupertino, California. That was corporate. Then I got it in Stanford Rugby. But because I've been an athlete since I was 7. Yeah. Right. And I remember I tore my pec prepping for Pro Raw one year, 2 years ago. Fucking still thing was just dangling. And I was worried about how that would affect my business. Here I talk about principles of injury risk management. And I can tell you exactly why I got injured, because I was keeping up with the Joneses. And the Joneses were my training partners, and they were the 2 strongest guys in the world, Andrew Herbert and Dan Gibb. It's more food, and then more reps. And it's okay. Let's
sleep. You meant sleep.
Right, no, fuck it, man. I think there's a transparency that's worth talking about. But I showed up the next weekend I was bruised from my wrist to my pelvis. I tore it under 200 kilos, and I had to deadlift in the cage because I was sponsored by Animal. And I was worried. A lot of the guys in the cage, Andre was there, Dan was there, Andy Wong was there, JP Price was there. It's the cage, right? All the strongest guys are there. And it was that was my badge, because I have fucking diplomas on the wall that look over my shoulder like a bunch of goddamn receipts. But and to a certain degree, kind of the way Gawain can walk into a room with other 1,000-pound squatters, and there's a tip of the hat. There's an understanding that, look, man, you've taken a journey that not many people on this planet will ever take. And then the second I showed up and took my shirt off and was just black and was deadlifting, just if it's going to tear, I'd rather tear in America and not in Australia. So let's see how we go. We'll get to that later, but they misloaded my bar at Pro Raw, heavier on that side.
Oh, fuck.
Anyway, fucking Australians, unbelievable. But that was it. That to me was an experience. Being rich in experience is something that I always maintain. Because I understand the mentality of someone who's ready. I'll fly it close to the sun and I'll get burned. And I was so weird. I remember what happened. I almost threw up from the pain. It feels like Velcro. It sounds like Velcro made of flesh when you really get a good muscle tear. And I was like, fuck, this
ripping a
is gonna, like,
flanny.
right?
It's like ripping a flanny, man. That's the first thing that came to my head when I tore my quad. It was just like, oh, like a chunk of material just ripped.
Oh, Gawain, thank God you repeated that, because the first time that came out, that was not what it sounded
Did you
like.
see your fanny?
Yeah. I was like, what?
But yeah, I think there's a level of, you can't buy experience. And this is
Yeah.
something that, like, as an educator, I have to reiterate. Like, you know, I've been able to do some cool stuff because fuck if I haven't worked for free in my life. I still work for free because it's like when I'm working for free, I'm accumulating experience that other people won't have, right? Like every time there's a powerlifter through the gym, right? When I first started, like, hey, Dan, tell that guy if he needs anything, let me know. And it's like, I just did it for the experience. Like, and now, you know, I'm 6 or 7 years into this, but I have a decade worth of experience because I'll go out there and I'll actually, that's what I seek. I got this fucking giant receipt on the wall that dressed up in a diploma and some fancy frame, and it laughs at me every day because, like, haha, I fucking pay off until you're dead, you son of a bitch. And it's like, all right, well, you're not helping me at all. How can I, like, actually further my career? And it's like, you know, I think a big thing is we can fake experience. We can hide that in this social capital. So if someone's an Olympic athlete, I'd have the rings tattooed on my fucking forehead. Are you serious?
Yeah, damn straight.
Like going to
100%.
Harvard, within 30 seconds of talking to me, you'd know about it.
Yeah,
right? No
absolutely.
like, no one listens to me because of the stuff I talk about. They listen to me because I have a bicep vein and I can deadlift more than them usually, unless it's Gawain, right? And that's what it is. Like Poliquin always said, right? When Poliquin first started teaching, someone came up to him and was like, the reason they're not listening to you is you have small arms. Until the day he died, God rest his fucking soul, he had 22-inch arms. He had a 22-inch waist with 22-inch arms. But fuck, if that wasn't, look, it's the most gangster shit in the world. It's not about what you know. It's about what you can prove.
Yeah, and that's it. That's exactly, and I think that's another big issue what's going on. We've got so little, you know, in my world, there's so many people coming out there, and if you can't identify with the person you're working with, how can you ever expect them to trust you that you know what you're going to do? I mean, fuck it. I have prac students that have come through that have never trained, like legitimately have never. So they're doing exercise physiology, doing a 4-year degree in exercise physiology, and they have never trained.
Fuck. But like, I think this, you know, it comes back down, and ownership in this new generation where we are looking at social media more than we were looking at books back in the day. And I say that being the youngest person on this thing, like, but you know, nobody wants to work for free, as Jordo said. I know when I first started as a PT in your big commercial box, like I didn't make a fucking buck for nearly 6 months. It's just really like trial and error, get experience. Hey, let's do this, let's do that. But nobody wants to do that anymore because they go through that 4-year degree and think they're entitled to something. Which goes back to a conversation that we go,
entitlement.
It's just a thing of entitlement. It's like, cool, I paid for this degree. I paid for this fancy receipt on the wall. So give me what I'm owed. And it's like, fuck you. You got to earn your, as Jordo said, your bags. Like, I'm only a good coach because I've torn more shit than most people. I know what to do. I know how to get through this sort of thing.
That reminds me, I need to put mine up on the wall. I actually don't know where it is.
It's by your bed, dude.
Those are the
Can
guys
you
who are
check?
gonna
No,
get
that
caught out, aren't they?
What's
So,
that?
like, I said those are the guys who are going to get caught out eventually. Like they're
It's
going to be back to whatever they did.
But
before
the problem is, I guess, and actually, I'm super keen for you two guys because you're in it. You're in the trenches. Do you know what I mean? At what damage will they get caught out?
Yeah,
you know, we talk about, as again, we go back to the first question, the injury prevention. How do we?
It takes that injury or something bad to happen. It's like, you know, the amount of clients I could rattle off that have come to me and gone, oh, I had this injury because of this and this and this. And I'm like,
but then it goes back to Gawain's question. Like, is that the athlete's fault that they've had to pay for the other person getting experience or being found out? Like, this is the issue.
I think it's experience is experience at the end of the day. Like there's only one way to know. Like you're either all in and you fly too close to the sun and you get burned, and then that's knowledge, that's experience for next time.
Yeah, sometimes those poor athletes, they only know what they know, and if what they only know is that poor or
crap coaching.
Yeah.
They might not know any better until it's
That's
too
right.
late.
But as I said, I think the difference is, like, my opinion on it, the difference is the guy that walks out of his 4-year degree and goes, I'm amazing, brilliant, and I'm entitled, and come look at me, I have this shit, and, you know, versus the person who goes, I've got my 4-year degree and I know fuck all. But I have the basis, I have the baseline to be amazing. And so I go and I work with, you know, somebody. I work with guys like you and Johnny, you know, and go, yes, I've got a degree, but these guys are in it, and I'm going to learn my experience from that. Like, there's just so many coming out now going, I don't need Johnny, I don't need Brando, they're only coaches, whereas I have fucking big balls because of big degrees. And then the problem is the person who misses out, the only loser in that situation is the athlete, because I walk away with money in my bank, and 6 months down the line, old mate's tore his pec, and I'm like, oh, sorry, buddy, it's unforeseen. We couldn't, you know, the research says that these things happen, and, you know.
See, I feel like I've very lucky before all this COVID bullshit hit. I had a physio, maybe second-year physio student follow me around because he's doing a bit of strength coaching as well. And, like, the kid was smart as fuck. Like, could recite textbooks and, like, shit that I probably would never be able to rattle off. But you try and get him to coach someone, it's like, you're fucking terrible. And that comes just because I know people. And that's another aspect to it. If we look at this sense of entitlement, like, I know most of people's stories on this podcast. It's like, we've all done shit we ain't proud of, which gives us a certain level of experience also to relate to people. So when we try to convey what our message is or whatever we're trying to educate them on, we can do that. But these kids going through 4-year degrees, fucking having everything paid for them this whole time, like, they don't have that life skill.
How do we, Gawain, how do we deal with that? How do you deal with the entitlement sets then? Like, what do we do? How do we fix it? How do you approach it?
But I think, so I'm going to just real quick jump in there. I think it's going to come back to, it's going to weed out in the long run, because at the end of the day, like, we look at, let's take this COVID thing. You know, if your business is built on fucking quick fixes and quick money in the bank, like, you're done. But if your core business has some substance to it and, you know, community around it, you're going to be around for the long run.
If we're talking strictly powerlifting, well, let's talk strictly powerlifting.
The marker for special,
because we're an elite sports person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The marker for guys and girls whom are very good at their job is going to be how they're going to be able to react in the crunch. We're going to be in a position, we're doing shit we're not meant to be doing. And the reality is how is a coach going to be able to adapt when we're injured, when we're hurt, when things aren't going well, you know, when we're not creating the same output that we should be creating, and we're not performing at the level that we should be performing. That's going to be the thing that obviously is going to define someone who's good and who's not, right? Because basic periodization, all this training stuff, it's not super difficult to get someone from point A to point B. But how do you get them from point D to E? You know, when they're already fucked.
Yeah.
So,
because this, look, I can be selfish on this one, because I've got three sets of experts that in different areas that are, your opinions would be amazing because it'll help my team. Like, you know, when you talk about it from that point of view, and you go, you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it. Do you know what I mean? How do we approach this level of this kind of entitlement? How do we approach this level of where guys are going, I've got all this, I know what it is, I'm going to go. And how do we, as opposed to, you know, we can look at it in two ways. We can go, this is a problem, it's bullshit, it's crap, and it's all their fault. Or we can look at it from a point of view of going, it is what it is, what's the solution? So it's problem versus solution. What's the solution? What do we put out there? And the reason I say I'm selfish, I get a lot of prac students from universities, you know, and when they graduate in 6 months' time, their title is the same as mine. So I can crack the shits and go, this is bullshit, not take any more of them on and go, I'm just turning my back and I'm being me and I'm being amazing. But their name is the same as mine to Joe Bloggs down the street. They're going, oh, he's a sports therapist, exercise physiologist. Oh, this guy is as well. Same standards, same everything, where it's not. So I could crack the shits and go, they're all entitled, they're useless. Or I can go, I can make a difference. I can elevate them. I can apply something and I can find a solution that I can elevate them, make them recognize these things, because you don't know what you don't know till you don't know it, which means that when they do graduate and they do have the same title as me, we're on a level playing field and the standard is higher.
I think it's understanding, Greg's kind of alluded to it. I think it's understanding that, look, as much as we're all in the rehab business or like the athletics business or in the strength coaches business, fundamentally, we are all in the people business, right? And that is something that needs to be inherent. And that was not something that, look, as I traversed my way through graduate school, that was not something that was inherent to me, right? It took me like an anxiety attack, hospitalized, and then sleeping out of my car to figure out that, look, I need to fix my own shit, and then I could actually start to interpret outside myself to other people. I wouldn't wish that on most people, but there's a certain, like, I think a lot of what we could root this down to is like, you know, the people that are flash in the pan doing the Baywatch pole vault, it's like they're likely not passionate. They're not craftsmen in this field, right? They're flash in the pan. They're here for a good time, not a long time. It is a shame now in this self-selection process that they are going to get people dragged through the mud as a means of sullying this person's reputation to a point where at the end of this attrition game, the Commonwealth pole vaulters or the Olympic pole vaulters are a little bit more modest and they're going to sit back and finally win. How do we minimize the casualties along the way of shifting people's mindset? I think it's making sure the academics know in the physical rehab, prehab, you know, myo, chiro, physio, whatever space that, look, you need to develop a systems way of thinking, right? You don't just have to operate off a system. My kids will come to me with like return to play protocols. Like, get rid of it. Get rid of it. I don't want to see it. Why? Because like you don't understand allostatic load principle. You don't see, look, this quarterback, because he's up for re-signing this year. You don't get that. You don't get that he's putting so much extra pressure on the camp because his big boy contract's coming. His entry level, yeah, he made $300,000 in 17 weeks. That's pretty sick. But he's up for a cool 1.5 if he can throw a couple Hail Marys this season. That's not in a return to play protocol for a labrum surgery with 2 anchors. That's not in a post-op ACL surgery. That's not in a protocol. So understanding allostatic load, understanding people at a bit of a deeper level, like understand that what is stress management? Stress isn't I squatted on Monday and I can't deadlift on Tuesday. Stress is like, look, this guy's got an ex-wife that's up his tree. He's got another wife that's on the way to join her. He's got to make alimony. Like, that's what you need to understand. And if you don't understand that, then you're just left. And this is what I can't stand. I can't stand people with methods. I can't stand people with system. Like the guy who invented the Bosu ball is running around like Carlton Banks trying to teach people how to fucking run, right? Like put these tantric balls away. Usain Bolt's not going to get better holding 2 fucking yo-yos in his hand. I don't give a fuck if it's the WEC method. Get out of here up the road with this bullshit. You know what I mean? When I hear methods, when I hear systems, like, you know, you need a systems way of thinking. I think deep and applied biomechanics. That's what I think. But I know that for whatever reason, when my director from Apple goes to Hawaii, his back stops hurting. And I start to think, I wonder if the gravity is different. I wonder what they have in the sand over there. You think he's doing his No. He's kicking back. He's turned off his cell phone because, you know, our physical structure, our musculoskeletal system interacts and interfaces and interplays with every other system in our body. Right? I had a celiac that would come in, and it's like her elbows hurt every time like her husband ate bread or some shit. I was like, well, fuck, all right, like don't go around him when he eats bread or tell the fucking guy to stop eating bread or some shit. Like that's not my system. But understanding, like, look, know your system deep and know what borders it on either side and have a systems way of thinking rather than just thinking about a system that you have. So it's like, it's a really like, you know, not to go too metaphysical, but like there's a lot about awareness and consciousness that makes a good experienced coach, clinician, athlete, what have you.
But that again all stems from experience, whether it be in life, dealing with injuries, like, as you said, you know, you slept on your office floor for so long. Like that's experience people can't buy. You don't get taught that in college. Like with everything, you know, knowing all your stories, like that's why we can then, you know, sit wherever and talk about this stuff and go, this is the difference. And how you then, you know, change that, going back to what you said, Paul, it's like, it just comes from experience. It comes from the way you are able to language that to a person to create buy-in, to go, this is why you need to change. Because you're not dealing with a person who's just got fucking elbow pain. You're dealing with a person.
Yeah, 100%. And it's an art that seems to have been lost recently. You're not dealing with a fucking clinical journal. You're dealing with a person. That ACL, there's somebody attached to that ACL. Like, Jordan, I'm 100%. It's so good to hear someone else talk about it with systems and protocols. Like the rigidity behind a system and a protocol, it dictates that so much is missed. You're not dealing with a journal. You're not dealing with an ACL. You're dealing with a person. That ACL just so happens to be attached to it, and we see it all the time. I see it all the time, like with the 2 physios that I have on staff now, and the guys that I get coming through, like they're trained. There's so many different methods: the Maitland method, the Mulligan methods. There's fucking all these methods, and they're all like, only do this one. So if this person comes in with this back pain, only do this, and if it doesn't work and the pain doesn't go away, just keep doing it. And I'm like, why? Why not try that? And if it doesn't work, put a bit of that in there. And if that doesn't work, see how that goes. Man, I've had clients say this to me, and they come into me and they go, what do you think about acupuncture? And what do you think about Reiki? And what do you think about fucking, But I'll be honest with you 100%. When I first graduated, my first few years, as a clinician, I was like, it's ridiculous. It's fucking stupid. They're idiots. Storm out of the office and never listen to them. It's not. Now I turn around and I go, did it work? And they go, yeah, I felt better. Great. Go back. Do that again.
Sweet.
Well, I think it advocates responsibility, right? Like, I mean, again, not to get too metaphysical, but like this idea that, look, like people don't have ideas. Ideas have people, right? That's sort of this like Jungian philosophy around. But I love the way you said that ACL is attached to a person, right? It's not attached to like a femur and a tib. No, it's attached to a person, right? And I think that's, if I'm a healer and I'm going over the hill in Santa Cruz, and it's like someone gives me an amethyst crystal. It's like, what do I fucking smoke it? What do I do with this thing? Like, get the shit out of here. But like, if I understand that, look, if this is how we're going about treatment, like if this crystal doesn't work, then I don't have to take responsibility as a healer. This is the method. It's like, okay, fine. If you're not willing to create exclusion criteria for your patient base to self-select for successful cases for whatever your system is, and the only exclusion criteria is how much money you got. What do you got? What's your HMO? What's your healthcare look like? If you don't have that self-selection criteria, then you can advocate responsibility around what it is you're actually doing, right? Like I've done ART, I've done a handful of other stuff. I don't promote it. I don't really care. Like, because at the end of the day, I'm not worried about the initials after my name that no one knows what they are and no one gives a shit. Like there's, like, Paul, you might know a handful of the initials and be like, oh, yeah, so how was that weekend in the hotel lobby? How much did that run in? In the ass? That's continuing education credit must have been. Like, I don't even put it up. I'm worried about the integrity and the meaning and the responsibility behind the name that precedes all those bullshit initials, right?
Agreed.
Because I'm responsible, because I care about what I do. How you teach that, I don't really know, but a system is safe. A system is it's the Oedipal mother that keeps the therapeutic world safe and goes, well, yeah, but it's gonna cook you and eat you, right? Like there's no responsibility in that. And so I think that's why a lot of people gravitate to it. You know why I don't do that? Because my mom hit me when I was a kid with a spoon. That's why. That's why it's like, when I do things wrong, I get punished, and when I do things right, I get rewarded, and I have to take responsibility. Like that's something that I think this is just fundamentally because look, we can sit here and talk about the fitness industry because this is the industry we know, and we talk about the rehab and sports performance industry. This is just how people are exhibiting their behaviors in this particular subset, like in this realm. Like if we were talking about real estate development, we could have, I'm sure, the same conversation with the same relative distribution of shithead, dishonest people and, old school ethical people, and then trying to bridge this gap between like how social media is affecting it. It's just, I don't know, how do you make people better? Like, and then like, that's a really hard question to answer. And I would not want to be in your position and having to come up with a solution.
Yeah. Gawain? I'm throwing Gawain under the bus. He's going to come up with this solution.
No, that's my lifelong passion right now is trying to create a fucking solution for this. Mate, like, I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit negative, resistant about the entire thing because I'm kind of beyond the point anymore. I'm kind of just like, if we want to get from point A to point B, you need to be able to do X, Y, and Z. I just don't care anymore. Just like, this is what it's going to take. We need to be able to do X, Y, and Z. If that works for you, great. Let's keep doing it. But as far as like anything else is concerned, I don't concern myself with that sort of shit anymore. I'm over it. Like, you know, the bullshit that goes on from an athlete perspective and everything else, like obviously not from a clinical perspective like you boys, but I'm over it. Like I only have the time to be able to put into myself and put into the people around me. I just don't listen to it anymore.
Yeah. And that's concerning. Like that's concerning for me on the other side of it, because, you know, you are the athlete. You right there, there's a complete loss of trust. There's a loss of trust. And that is the issue. You know, that boils down to the first question, injury prevention. You know, it's a very simple answer. We can go for hours and hours more, but it's trust. How do we prevent injury in athletes? The athletes trust us to fix them and to have their interests and their best interests in heart. You know what I mean? And it's concerning that's you know, when we look at you going the athlete now, that's where you've got to. You know, and it's how do we gain the trust back? Because I'll be honest with you, the whole industry, like I'm with you, I've been disillusioned for years and I've come out of it and I've gone, to hell with it, I'm just going to do my own thing. And then I've gone, no, I've been doing this long enough, I need to give back. It's my responsibility. And then I've done it a few times, got burned, I got, oh, fuck him, I'm out again. But what I have realized is no meaningful change has ever happened. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. How do we get the trust back? How do we get the trust back between the athlete, the coach, Johnny Brando?
You go, Ryan.
I would almost disagree to an extent. I mean, you know, using Geordie as a prime example. Like, look where he was 2-3 years ago compared to where he is now. Him just not being concerned with other people's bullshit, just investing in himself, refining his craft. You know, and he creates a bigger voice for himself. If everyone else had the same sort of mentality around that, and not a mentality where they're entitled to be able to have a voice and say X, Y, Z, you know, I want to be able to believe. I want to be able to believe that there's only a matter of time before we get to a position where, you know, you could have bigger forums like the one that Jordan was about to do with a huge amount of people that are attending. So, you know, I myself, you know, using myself as an example, there are literally, I can count the amount of people that I would trust with my preparation on one hand. And like 2 of them are in here. So, and it all boils down to what we were talking about before, is it all boils down to that experience and actually having a fuck up. You know, I invested a year and a half, 2 years in with Chad. Chad's the only other guy that I would probably allow to touch my boat. Chad and Ed Cohn are the other 2 people whom I would let, you know, influence me with my training, period. So, but look who those 2 guys are as well. And I think, you know, Ed doesn't have a huge social media. He has a teeny tiny voice. Chad is the same. Probably, in my opinion, one of the best strength coaches on the planet, right? Strength and conditioning coaches as well on the planet. But, you know, doesn't have a huge following. Doesn't also have a huge voice and a platform. But I'm sure, I want to believe, and it irks me, but I want to believe it's only a matter of time.
But I think it also, Gawain, like you're at the top end and you've been exposed to this bullshit for so long that it comes to a point where it's just like, I know what to look for. Yeah. And that comes with experience. But then if we look at what Jordo's doing now with Prescript, like correct me if I'm wrong, Jordo, by any means, but it's like, I could affect one person by mentoring one-on-one, or I can create these, you know, these classes where now I can have effect on people within their communities. Like what I learned from Jordo in Prescript level 1, I then get to apply to my whole community. And like I coach a few coaches. So then they can go back and through. And then comes back down to the quality of content Jordo puts out there and his morals.
Yeah.
Well, it's ironic to have G sit on this call when I know there's like a Monte Cristo and some Glenn Levitt is sitting. Maybe he's smoking, we're not seeing it, but like I think he's by doing this, like there it is.
You better sit right next to me.
By doing this, he's doing the thing that he's actually making a greater impact, right? Like using platforms like this to relay a message. Like just like my goal was to, like, I was a B2B business. I showed up at PTC South Melbourne 3 years ago and I started talking and I have not shut up since. Like all I do is talk about lifting weights and think about different ways and more creative ways and really old ways to be able to lift weights better and program and periodize. And I'm willing to go wherever it takes, however long it takes me to do that. Like that's just what gets me out of bed in the morning. But that's how I went from a B2C business where it's like, look, I remember by name, like the 17 kids that paid, I don't know, $50 Australian for a 3-hour seminar, which in American dollars is like
12 cents.
Yeah. And it's like, and for me, like they were all just powerlifters, right? And now then I got like a handful of coaches, and now it's like, okay, my goal is, you know, if I want to make more noise, I know I can't do it alone, right? Like I can't go up against, like, I don't know if I'll ever have, like, there's dudes in the States that have like, they're therapists and they have 450, 500,000 followers. And it's, you know, that's a lot of impact. But like, if I have 147 coaches going through this semester of our course, guess what? I feel that following now, who's going to start to tilt the scale? And if we can just start to saturate the market with better information, then it becomes so much easier for athletes and general population to self-select better quality coaches. I think to a certain degree, like there's an security through obscurity, like ego complex that therapists can go through, that, look, this is so complicated that only I can do what I do. And it's like, you serious? My career trajectory before going into chiro school was selling cocaine. Like that's literally I was like, I hope I don't want to put doors on a minivan and sell coke as a side hustle. Like that's the kind of neighborhood I grew up in. So it's like, I'm not naive enough to think that like I can do this by myself. And that's why I'm more than open, like, to sit in on these forums. And G, the same, like, for you lending us your time right now as one of the strongest dudes in the world is so, you don't understand, like, the ripple effect of this. And this will drown out in time, or it'll inspire the next. You know, I know a kid in New Zealand that's going to watch this, guaranteed. His name's Brogan Samuel. Like, he's a young kid. He's 400 kilos, right? He'll watch this. And Brogan's going to chiropractic college. And I know he's already stronger than me, and he's going to be smarter than me, and he's going to put it all together. And that's going to be someone that'll make an impact on this industry, right? And like this, like it seems small. We sit here and we can, you know, shoot the shit. But I think in what you're saying that you don't care, you want to have hope, I think you still do, because you're here. Because as annoying as I am, you'd be like, fuck this C word. I can't say it. I don't feel so uncomfortable saying it. I just see my mom's face when I say that word. But like, I think it's good. I think that's the value in it, right? Like, I think you offering up your time, it's almost like it's antithetical to what you're saying, because it is providing that hope that you think or wish you had.
Well, that's it, isn't it? And it's like, and that's the whole exciting thing about this podcast. Like, it's so many different backgrounds, and I really think it's one of the ways that we need to push forward, you know, and how we change this kind of landscape. You know, you've got coaches, you've got, you know, one of the strongest men in the world. You know, you've got two therapists and two people that approach it in such a different way. Like, it's conversations like these that need to happen more. It's not just me sitting there talking to my cohort of my devoted followers in physio or ex-phys, but it's about looking at, it's how do we get the industries, all of them, looking at things from different angles, not going, you know, it's one thing I say in the clinic all the time, and Brando's heard me, there's no right and wrong answer. There's better and worse, and sometimes there's really fucking worse. But there's no right and wrong. Like, never listen to somebody who talks in absolutes. Never listen to the person who goes, I have the answer. All of these other people are wrong. Don't fucking listen to chiros. Don't listen to ex-phys. Listen to me as a physio, because I have the magic elixir that's going to fit. bollocks. It's complete bullshit. Like, there is no one size fits all. There is no right answer. There's options. There's better and worse. And by having conversations with people who aren't in your industry or who aren't as part of your cohort, who look at things differently, is the only way you can, generate meaningful change.
I think, like, kind of going back to talking about Gawain, you said something before which I can't exactly remember because everyone's talking so much. That's fine, but
yeah, Johnny, we really need you to calm down. And stop talking. Yeah, you're really starting to hog the limelight a little bit. Yep, just every so often I'd like to get a word in.
For later.
I want to ask Gawain this, like, in talking about, we've shared plenty of conversations where, it takes a certain person there to see their own ability to be able to have that impact. Like, you got to have some sort of confidence within yourself to be able to start, doing what Jordo's doing, to do what you do, Gawain, and that's like talk to people.
Yeah, I mean, or just be completely fed up.
All that.
Or just be completely fed up. Look, you do, and obviously really dependent on how you're doing it as well. Like with me, when I get to speak overseas and it's predominantly not in the same forum as what Geordie does, mine's TV, mine's into business and things like that as well. So, and me as a person, like that's the complete opposite of who I am in its entirety. So you're right, but where we started is obviously where I started was obviously where my strengths lay. And that's speaking to smaller groups and speaking at work and building a confidence through work. And obviously what's parried that is that my success in lifting as well, me being a good lifter and having the confidence that I've earned the right to be able to say what I've got to say as a lifter, to then obviously pass it on as well. Same with Geordie, same with Paul. Experience going through, coaching however many athletes and having multiple doctrines and things like that, and being overtly good looking, having that experience to be able to say the things that he says.
Yeah, I mean, I think the goal is, like, I still remember the first video I put up on YouTube. I didn't sleep for 3 days. I kept hitting refresh. It was on my buddy's channel. I kept hitting refresh. I was so worried about, like, not the quality of the content. I didn't know anything about production value, but I was just worried about how it was going to be perceived. Because, like, it's so much to be in context. And here I am saying this thing. I don't even remember what it was about. I just remember, like, is someone going to say a bad thing? Right? And now it's like, I'm a little bit older, and I've done this enough times where it's like I relish. I do like a good conflict because I'd like to think when I put stuff out, I've at least thought about it from as many angles as I can, and I write it as contextually as I can, or I present it as contextual as I can. Right? Like, there's a difference between teaching and preaching, right? And there's a lot of people who, if you preach a system, you teach first principles, and it's like, look, everything I like to think of is like, there's some rung of experience that's holding this thing up, right? Like, it helps when I present in front of personal trainers in commercial box gyms when we start to talk about squatting and, like, they start to bang on about starting strength or whatever, and they're like hip dominant squatting. It's like, it's nice to be able to sit up there with some footnote citations and a 350 kilo squat, right? It's like, look, if I get to rip through the research and that evidence, or like go through the people I've trained, I do have this trump card. So it's like, being G in a room, it's like
a little street cred there.
A little bit, yeah. Like, you don't want to have to pull that card, but like, no one has, like, when it comes to, I mean, G uses that strength in another arena, but it's like, there's a confidence that comes with knowing that you've pushed anything further than most people have. Like, I would listen to a world-class basket weaver because it's like, man, your fingers must have hurt. So I don't know anything about basket.
Oh, like, how did you get there, right? Like, how is it that you put yourself in that position where you're like, I'm just going to do, what drove you to be able to want to be and to understand how to be so fucking great at what you're doing? It doesn't matter what it is. Because
passion's passion. You could be passionate about chess and I'll fucking sit there and
I'll listen to it.
Yeah, exactly. I suck at chess, but I'll listen to it.
Come on, are you okay?
But it also comes back down to, like, Gawain, you know, that what you were saying before, that confidence, you can squat 1,000 pounds, like kind of what I was saying before, like with passion, confidence. The confidence you bring over here, you get here, you can take over here, because it is still a challenge for you. You know, public speaking, that is.
Yeah, it is. But luckily, and it's literally the article that I'm writing for you is specifically around that. It's delivering it and delivering it at a level over and over and over and over again that it becomes nothing.
Yeah.
It becomes normal. I can have these conversations in front of 200-300 people, whether it's in a work setting talking about finance, or whether it's in a powerlifting setting talking in front of whomever it is, or a live fucking camera in front of whoever many reporters and people and things like that in the background and freaking out. It doesn't matter anymore because I've had this conversation so many times. And if shit hits the fan, I squatted 1,000 pounds.
I was wondering how long into the podcast it would take for you to say that.
That's really good.
Yeah,
How long were you?
An hour and 34 minutes. I was like, when is he going to pull out his trump card? Fuck. Motherfucker.
So what about
twice?
Yeah. See us poor mere mortals back here. See, where's my trump card? Shit, I'm fucked.
No, but
I'm done.
No, but your trump card is in what you're doing right now, in the voice that you're creating for yourself and the athletes that you're actually creating.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. Sorry, you go, Jordan.
Well, for me, it's like, dude, 17 years of clinical experience is like, to anyone who's ever worked in a clinical setting, that's I don't know what's more valuable than gold. Gee, what's crazy? How are diamonds doing? Like, what's on the, like, that is an unbelievable, like, I was lucky.
I hear you.
I was working with, I would see 250 patients a week in a corporate setting. For better or for worse, I got to see hands-on a lot of people and deal with a lot of people. I dealt with a lot of ACLs attached to a lot of different people. But because we, especially as clinicians, like, we operate in this, like, I remember my first day at chiropractic college, Dr. Meeker, who was like the provo of our school, he said, look at the person next to you, look at the person on the other side. In 5 years, both of those people aren't going to be in practice. Like, it's attrition, right? Like, we are vetted. I went to chiropractic college. My sister's a medical doctor in Townsville. So if you ever need, like, if you ever need to get stitched up, let me know. I got a hookup. But she's brilliant. I was a drug dealer who liked to lift weights, right? Like, I don't have a base aptitude for any of this, right? I know when someone's going to get tied up and thrown in a trunk and brought to a field, because I know that much. But it's like, I don't necessarily, like, there's not a base level aptitude, but it gets proven in the court of public opinion. So, like, 17 years of holding trial every day and being able to come out on the other side of it, like, that is, I look at that in my perspective, and that's because I know so many fly-by-night therapists that are like, they're bagging groceries and shit, or they're driving Ubers. It's like, look, there's so many facets to it, things you need to consider, because it's not the smartest. Like, I wasn't the smartest. Yeah, it's like, who is the?
We've already covered that in 2 podcasts.
Yeah, it's like, who wants to help people over who wants to be right and help themselves, and that's such a, like, because it's hard to fight that entitlement, right? Like, you invested a lot of time in your life and money into it, and it's like, you come out the other side, and to be able to prove that for 17 years is like, that's like a 17-year marriage. I was married for 3 years. I couldn't fucking do it. Are you serious? You've been married to this thing for 17 years. Like, that is of highest, like, to me, of highest regard. Like, I'll take 17 years of experience in anything over, like, 3 PhDs.
So, Geordie, when you encounter situations and people come into you and they come into you with snake oil sort of bullshit, is it just get out, or how are you dealing with that?
Oh, like the DM, like, hey, let's collab on some CBD cream or something. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I'm almost like you, where I'm a little bit more, like, do your homework. Like, if you follow me for a week, you'll probably know my stance on most things. Like, I'm pretty near the knuckle as it is. Like, I'm a little bit more, like, crass than I probably should be as someone who's, like, a professional. Like, I'm wearing sleeves just because, like, Paul's a third party that I haven't met before. So I was like, all right, I should put on my dress tarp and put on my moo-moo for this one. This is my work shirt. You're welcome.
Thank you.
This shirt.
There's no need to stand on ceremony here, Jody. You get comfortable, buddy.
I'm not wearing Irish. Are you serious?
I'm not wearing pants, so it's okay.
Neither are we.
What about Johnny? It's work. I'm wearing pants. But yeah, so I just think like there's a certain way of going about it that is tactful in dealing with these things. What is the intent of the person, right? Like I love dogs because I don't trust. Like Bill Murray says a quote where it's like, I don't trust people my dog doesn't like, and I don't like people that don't trust dogs or something like that. Because I can smell it, right? People like, I can smell your intent. Like if I think you're willing, like actually trying to help people rather than turning a buck, then I'll lend you my ear. But if I think you're trying to turn a buck, like
100%.
I'll ghost them, or I'll just like, look, man, like you clearly don't know much about my platform. Like CBD creams, you don't really have the backing and research. Thanks, have a nice day. Neuromuscular electrical stim units and things like that. Like thanks, but no thanks. I think it all depends on how it's approached. Like, these fly-by-night companies, easy come, easy go. But there's companies I'll collaborate with that I think they're doing good stuff. But more often than not, man, because like as manual therapists, you're already left of a conventional model. So what's further left of that is a whole nother industry looking to sell to you. They're not going to call up my sister and be like, oh, hey, well, we have this. We're going to DM a medical doctor. They're going to DM a guy in the fitness industry who's like, therapist, athlete, whatever, right? So it's tough because you do want to protect your reputation. But at the same time, it's like you do want to like Vlad the Impaler a head on a spear and be like, hey, maybe we should knock on that guy's door. That looks. I heard some rumors about that guy. So it's a tough thing to navigate on like a personal and professional level for sure.
What's the craziest thing someone's tried to get you to collab on, bro?
Oh, like sending me their socks or sending them my socks. That's a collaboration. That guy's fucking coming back and he's bringing friends. So that's probably the craziest one. I don't know how viable a business model that is, but yeah, that kind of stuff gets a little bit weird. But it's the usual shit. Oh, what?
What do you mean you don't get that?
There's no way you ascended the ranks in powerlifting.
Okay.
And not had some inquiries.
I didn't say that. I've never been offered socks. I'm a little bit jealous.
I'm gonna say hello.
I was going to say, you do know Clint, right?
Yeah, a little bit too well.
Yeah.
Bella's just going to come on quickly to say hello.
Hello.
Hi, hello again.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
That's Brad. She's off.
Okay.
She's been looking here going, what are you doing? What's happening? And obviously she can't hear the conversation, thank God.
Yeah.
So right now all she's seeing is me talking to a computer going, I think Daddy's gone insane.
Has lost his mind.
Look, you are talking, as Jordan said before, the Mount Rushmore of bearded fellows. It must be an odd...
I know. I mean, I have to admit, now without my hair, I feel so kind of inadequate in this company.
Look, you've just kind of like... You've kind of fallen from the ranks of like,
really
Thor in the, Chris Hemsworth in the first Thor, where he obviously found my D-bowl stats and got super jacked.
Never the same.
And then fucking Thor 2 and Thor 3, and now like I loved Extraction, but come on, man, like
and now who
go back to fucking Jack Thor. Go get on the D-bowl and test again and make us all proud.
That's it. Who even am I?
Like it's one of the. I'm a massive Marvel fan, and this is a bit of a tangent, but
it's unusual for us.
I know, but like Chris Hemsworth, you were fucking jacked in first Thor. Why did you stop being jacked after that? Anyone, please, like. Anyways, that's my rant for the day. That's my input.
Didn't want to do his stunts. He could have just paid Jordan anyway. Look at the size of you. What's your weight right now?
Yeah, I'm light. I'm dieting down.
To what? For what? Models? Shoots?
So I fit better in economy class flights. No,
make some more money.
I'm at 113 at the moment. 113.5.
Wow.
Yeah, I do. It's just easier. Like. Improve body composition, and then it's almost like make hay while the sun shines. What can be a benefit of not being able to lift heavy? It's like, well, I can improve.
Be healthier.
It exacts some control too. Like training gives me a very, very much a perception of control around my life. And like when you live in someone else's house and that's your mailing address, like, and you don't have much control. Like this guy, if he wants his place back, he's just like, oh mate, you're out, and I gotta crab walk into another shell or someone else's home where they'll let me live. So it's like, all right, I can't control my training. I'll at least control my diet, and that's been able to scratch an itch. So I'm actually quite light at the moment. But hopefully the plan, man, is pro raw next year. And if I can make a run, we'll see where things end up. I'll either bulk into the 110s again, or I might make a run at the 100s.
Oh,
What? Hundreds?
hundreds.
The 95, you mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Whatever. Just come in. Absolutely.
Damn.
Like, sorry, let's just, you get to the 95.
95s.
Yeah.
Like,
I like
it's-
a challenge, man.
it's,
I'd be 4%, 6% body fat, but yeah, fuck it.
This is going to be some hectic Kevin
we
Oak.
actually just did a podcast
Fuck it.
with
It's on tape now, so that's.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that this is happening? Like we're expecting this, and if it doesn't happen, there's consequences.
I'm about to see Emad in about an hour. I'm going to tell him next year you're going to do the 95. So now you're fucked.
Well, I said 95s are growing to the 110s. I did say
Okay.
that.
Okay.
it's ironic. We just did a podcast with Tim O'Shea, and he was talking about Ricky Guggia, and we all know the King. Fucking cut from 117 for, was it 2013 Argentinian Worlds to make 100 kilos. Like, fuck. The cunt was getting out of a hot tub bath and a cold shower like every 5 minutes. But it's Ricky.
That's another thing. Right? How many times have you seen situations, Geordie, where there's like people trying to cut weight with coaches who have no fucking idea?
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not smart. That's probably the worst thing you could probably do is to rely on someone who has no idea about cutting weight like that.
But this is the problem, isn't it? It's then you get into the danger zone. Like, you know,
That's real bad.
MMA
fighters.
You can
MMA
get
fighters.
Oh, you can get bad coaches, and you're like, you're just a bad coach. You're not going to lift well. You're never going to win anything. And then you get the ones where you're like, you'll kill someone.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Jordo Pro Rule 9 cut to the 110s.
Who's that?
I remember meeting you Pro Rule 9, and like you compete as a 110, then 3 days later rocking up to PTC Brisbane looking at juicy 125. I was like, fuck. Boy can eat.
Yeah, I mean, but there's an experience that like the guy who did my weight cut is probably one of the most prolific weight cutters / performing powerlifters ever.
Yeah.
Like Dan, I've watched Dan. He disappears for the last 2 days. What I can only imagine is like 4 cartons of Marlboros, a spin bike, and a sauna with diuretics and a sweatsuit on. And he'll emerge 2 days later, this butterfly at like 100 kilos. I'm like, dude, weren't you 265 pounds like yesterday? He doesn't even have fluid left in the alveoli of his lungs to be able to make words. But it's like this guy rocks up, and you know, some of his best meets, some of the world records he broke were on the Pro Raw platform. So it's like I could have some kid with a PhD do my weight cut who's never done a weight cut before. Or I could have this guy who's like, look, man, for Rum 8, this is what I did. And I totaled, 2017 at 100 kilos. I was like, yeah, do that one. That sounds like the offer.
Hey, Daddy, this is Star Wars pod. DJ just said, may the force be with you, Star Wars.
That was great.
Yeah.
Wrong movie, Jordan.
Rob movie. I love my daughter.
It's all the same.
I was going to say, Daddy win. It's taken me 8 years to get her to this point, but it was hero day on Thursday at school, and she wanted to go as a princess and something. No, Rey from Star Wars, win a lot. Off you go.
That's brilliant.
That is amazing.
Proudest I've been.
Oh, that's great. All right, so to wrap this up, we actually have 10 new questions that none of you have experienced, which is great.
Ooh.
It's,
We can just go.
I think
Like ever?
Wayne.
like ever.
Gonna go scroll the rest.
Only 2 people have, 3 people, including myself, have to answer these. So, yeah.
And Brandon answered it very specially.
Oh,
As you do.
Very specially. So we'll just go.
We'll go question and then answer from Jordan, Paul, Gawain, because that's the order you guys are in on our screen.
Are you ready, gentlemen? Where is the place you would like to travel or explore, Jordan? Anyway.
New Zealand or Japan?
actually, Canada, or I want to go Arctic.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, I've actually answered that before, and I'm not saying this because Geordie's here, but Canada, 100% is happening next year, and probably
Thinking,
Spain.
Sweet. If you could travel to Mars knowing, but you know that you cannot come home, are you taking that trip, Jordan?
100%. Sign me up.
You're the first yes we've
You
got.
are the first yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Alone?
Alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'd prefer it.
I don't know if I'd prefer it, but I'm in.
Well, what have been the reasons not to? Because that seems really obvious. Like, hell yeah.
That's 3 yeses.
That's 3, yeah.
Bam! Jordan, can you dance?
No. So, funny story. I'm not going to tell it, but I'm going to tell it because I like you boys. At my wedding, past married. Right. But we can have a laugh all you want.
Is this the story?
Well, that in itself is actually another 3 hours. But my wedding song was "I Don't Dance." There's a country music song called "I Don't." So to give you to some context, how much I do not dance, that was the one dance I've ever done, and it was to a song about how much I don't dance.
Perfect.
That's amazing.
No,
No.
Yeah, I
not
figured
at
that
all.
one.
Actually,
Same thing as well. On my wedding day, I refused to do the wedding dance, only to be tricked onto the dance floor by my mother. And if anybody knows Irish mothers, like, you don't say no to an Irish mother. So she actually pulled rank on my wedding day and forced me to the dance floor to have my first dance.
Yeah, okay, fair. I feel like your wife would have killed you anyway, but shout out to Paul's mum.
Yeah.
Do I dance? Can I dance?
Yeah,
Can you?
I reckon you can. You got me.
Yes, of course I can.
Yeah.
I'm half
So-
Filipino. All we do is music and sing and drink and dance and do other stupid shit like that.
Jordan, what's
You say I
12
could dance
times
good.
12?
Hey?
What's 12 times 12?
I know. Hey Siri, what's 12 times 12? There you go. It's my assistant. 144. I lift weights. It's not increments of kilo plates. I don't have 12 kilo plates I put on the bars. I have no fucking idea.
I've squatted 1,000 pounds.
It's just a cheeky flex
That's a lot
again.
of 144s. I don't think the other two boys think
They don't
that.
need to
Unless
hedge.
you have different opinions on that 12 times 12, boys.
No, I'll back Jordan on that one.
You mean you'll back Jordo backing Suri on that one?
Pretty much.
Oh, dear. Jordan, what sport or activity have you not done that you would like to do or wish to do?
I mean, I toy with, I could never compete, but I like the idea of prepping for a bodybuilding show.
Oh, yeah.
Gridiron. 100% gridiron. 100%.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'd fit. Where would I fit, Gawain? Gridiron.
Probably, knowing your body right now, somewhere on the second string bench.
Probably. bringing them water, possibly.
Just because your wife would fucking kill me because you'd be broken.
Yeah, it is. I'm already broken.
No,
so it
you
doesn't
could
matter.
probably play. I've seen you run. You could probably play some safety, maybe.
I was thinking
Light someone up
safety.
that way.
I was thinking safety or a corner. Thinking a corner, maybe.
Sorry, what was that, Jordo?
You've got to be a kicker. You're Irish and you're kicker for sure.
Play soccer?
Absolutely.
Nah.
No, there's no soccer skills though.
No.
Well, I don't know, second string fan.
Hey. What about you, Glenn?
It's accurate.
What do you wish you could
Hurtful
play?
but accurate.
It would have been some sort of like boxing or MMA.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, get into it, son.
Now, Jordan, you're going to be given an elephant for 24 hours. What are you going to do with it before you return it?
Depends on who I'm returning it to.
The owner of the elephant.
I might try and set it free.
Yeah. Nice.
Probably what I would try to do. It'd be like a 24-hour like that show with
Free
what's his
Willy.
name? Sutherland. No, not Free Willy. Kind of Free Willy.
Yeah.
But
free, yeah.
I would figure out a way. It would be like Escape from Alcatraz with an elephant.
Nice.
Get it back into the wild somehow.
Paul?
I'm taking it down Queen Street Mall.
Fuck yes.
100%. 100%.
Oh,
Oh, all the way down. Just like Aladdin. Just on top of it, I'm going to have buglers and dancers, and I'm fucking right down to Queen Street Mall.
I'm walking that thing down the street just to see the reaction and just feeding it peanuts or something. That'd be awesome.
Jordan, describe your life in one word.
Fun.
Nice.
Varied.
Varied. Right now, it's messy as fuck because of COVID right now.
Stupid fucking COVID. What's your favourite sporting memory, Jordan, of yourself?
330 squat at US Open, or probably like stuff. The getting third up my first pro rock, or the 330 squat at US Open.
Sick.
Paul?
Two different sports. Scoring a try at 9 at First 15 University against an international, English international number 9, or actually first boxing fight. That was epic.
That's cool.
Gawain? If you mentioned 1,000 pound squat again. Yeah, I think he squatted 1,000.
Schwarzenegger. It's got to be Schwarzenegger.
No, I'm sure he
I
hasn't.
think the first time. The two biggest ones is, this is by accident because I was trying to be a dick with people at work, but winning one of those the first time.
What is that?
So it's a state championship ring for football.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. And probably squat. Probably it'd be a toss up between the first time I squatted 400 and the first time I went 1,000.
Cool. They were all done. All your squats are done in front of Schwarzenegger, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't know. That's just my fluke.
Sure it is.
Now, I really look forward to
Jordan,
that because I consider
Jordan's like, shut the fuck up.
Jordan's like, fuck, I hate this guy.
That is so sick.
Jordan, how long is a piece of string?
As long as you want it to be.
Well, I was hoping you'd ask Siri, to be honest.
Siri, how long is a piece of string?
I save her for the important stuff. That's like a question.
Paul?
4/5 of fuck all. I don't know.
Jesus. How long is 1,000 pounds?
Oh, God. Jordan, hopefully you've got your phone there. Boys, get your phone out. What is the last piece of music you've listened to?
Oh, shit.
I trained today, so it was probably the Crisis album by Alex on Fire, likely We Are the Sound, or Mailbox Arson.
Sick. Great album.
Just looking at it now. I was training today. It was... Where are we? Fuck.
Think.
Yeah. God damn you. Oh, it was Immigrant Song. Led Zeppelin.
Yes.
Ooh, deadly.
Track.
I'm about to eat, and I was sort of just like trying to get myself ready to think about squatting later. So I was listening to on the drive to get some groceries. I was pre-listening to the Doom Eternal soundtrack, which is just like crazy shooting guns and stuff like that. So.
I just love the way everybody just went silent.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
What the fuck?
There's like no judgment here at all. Safe space. Crazy bastard.
Would it be too angry?
I love that. It's funny because Jordo spoke about this on the podcast we did with him about like hype videos and hype things when you go get groceries. It's the best.
Yeah.
My process. It's my process. It's my process. And yeah, did I tell you I squatted 1,000 pounds twice?
No, actually.
One of which was in front of Arnold? Oh, okay, cool.
Wait.
Cool.
I haven't heard about this. You squatted 1,000 pounds.
Yes.
Really?
So glad you asked.
Oh, I've never heard about this. Really? I never realized we had such a celebrity in our midst.
I wish I could just be like Jordan, point to the wall and just be like, yep, see? There's my degree, bitches. There's my doctrine, bitches.
Oh, fuck you, Gwen. Boys, thank you so much for this afternoon or evening. It's now dark outside where we are, so I imagine it is for everyone else.
Nicola's going to kill you.
She's fine. I told her, like, babe, everyone who I told, like, they know Jordo and obviously in our world, and they know you, Paul, and they're like, you know, you're going to be there for like 9 hours just talking. I'm like, Yeah, but I blocked out 5 hours from my schedule. So she'll be home. She'll be happy I'm actually home early, or disappointed I'm home early. So
Probably the latter. Probably the latter. Yeah.
Well,
let's be honest.
She beat me. She kicked my ass in chess yesterday. So
it's not surprising.
Not at all. But I did buy her a Nintendo 64 for Christmas, and I kicked her ass in Mario Kart. So who's the real winner?
Mario Kart. That was probably the biggest memories I've taken from university. That's it.
Surprised you had memories.
Well, the first 2 years were the wonder years. We wonder what happened and how we got through it, but.
But boys, give us a quick shout out. Where can people find you, Jordo?
Instagram's probably the best, at @the_muscle_doc. If you ever have questions, shoot email jordan@themuscledoc.com.
Sweet. Paul?
At the clinic in Stafford, on Instagram. Just look up Start Training.
Just quickly, like, for people listening, if you want to talk to Paul on Instagram, you'll be talking to someone else on Instagram because Paul doesn't understand technology.
I talk to Paul on Instagram.
Unless you're Gawain. I talk to Gawain all the time on Instagram.
The prerequisite is you got to squat 1,000 pounds.
No. Or be the only person that he knows that has no competition to him whatsoever in squatting said 1,000 pounds.
And Gawain, where can people find you?
Just Instagram and Facebook, just through my name.
Easy done. I'll chuck that all up in the show notes, boys. Thank you so much for your time. I think we just cracked the 2-hour mark.
PB, boys.
That is a PB.
Winning.
I knew we'd do it with this crew.
No, it was quite refrained actually.
I feel like it was.
I'm looking forward to the round table. Food, wine.
Also, I forgot to tell
sandwiches.
You're in so much trouble, Grex.
Obviously.
Why?
Amy is so mad at you.
What'd I do?
You haven't invited her once again?
Okay, well, look. This is the...
We'll take that offline. But I'm just telling you, you're in trouble.
Okay, firstly, this was the Paul and Gawain segment, and then we were talking about injuries, and I was like, hey, Jordo, COVID, like, are you busy? And he's like,
motherfucker, I'm a doctor.
So it's the round table now.
Okay.
I've deemed it the round table.
Okay.
But we'd love to, we'll have to do this again, boys. Thank you so much for giving up your time. And we will definitely chat soon.
Love it. Well done, guys.
Thank you. Clap.